So it's Friday afternoon. I've had a nice day of just being out at the acreage with the dogs, with the animals, had a nice visit and a cup of tea with a client who lives out this way. So wanted to also had the opportunity to be able to participate in a webinar today with Karen McMullen, lovesexgenius.com. I mentioned she was the one who supported me the other day in a very meaningful reframe around the whole concept of what it is for me to be homeless. And so she was doing a webinar today on Byron Katie's The Work. So if you're not familiar with that, I think I talk about it sometimes in the classroom, is that it's a 4 simple step process to help you redirect or reframe a situation or a person or an event that's causing you stress and causing you grief and causing you pain and suffering. So I thought how appropriate. So I signed up and participated in that today so that I could participate in it as a student of it versus someone who, again, conceptually knows how to teach the idea. So there's a few steps that you need to go through first. And the first thing you need to do is you need to go through a worksheet or a process of judging your neighbor, is what she calls it. And it's your opportunity to be able to recognize what's getting in your way and what your judgments really are. So the first thing that you need to ask yourself is related to, in the situation, who is it that's angering you or confusing you or saddening you or disappoints you, and why? And so I chose to respond to that with, I'm angry with Chris because he doesn't love me enough to fight. So because he doesn't love me enough to fight. And so then the second thing you need to address is, in the situation, how do you want the other person to change, or what is it that you want them to do? And so my response to that was, I want him to get honest and find his heart and decide if he truly does love me, and then fight. So you want to be mindful in the first part that you don't pick too many situations. So I could pick a number of things in this example. So I could pick, I want Chris to see that I'm trying to support him, not hurt him when I challenge him. So I could probably do 15 or 20. And it's important that you don't pick 15 or 20. You can do 15 or 20 processes if that's what's required. What's most important is that you pick one and you work that through to the end. But then the third thing on the sheet is that it's a question around, in the situation, what advice would you offer to the other person? And what I said is that I would say to him, given the opportunity, that he shouldn't let his core negative beliefs become his story, his victim story more particularly, and that he needs to have the courage to face that and to rise up. So if I was to connect to that question, that's my response. Fourth thing is, in order for you to be happy in the situation, what do you need the other person to think, say, feel, or do? And what I came up with that was, I need Chris to be willing to talk about what's going on with him, feel instead of think, and love me enough or care enough about me to be willing to do the work, to fight for our relationship. Fifth thing is, what do you think of them in the situation? And so it's in that part that you make a list of your judgments. And so it's important that you be accountable and responsible to own what it is that you feel and what it is that you judge about the other person. And so what I came with up in that portion was, I judge Chris as being self-centered. I judge him as being emotionally stuck. I judge him as being righteous, and I judge him as being extremely stubborn and inflexible. So those would be my judgments of him. And then the sixth thing you check into is, what is it about the situation that you don't ever want to have to experience again? And what I said about that was, I don't ever want to have to be in a relationship where someone doesn't feel safe enough or confident enough to be upfront and honest with their withholds. So those of you that have done our process, you know what I mean by that. Those of you that haven't, it's the idea of being willing to speak your truth and not let an elephant begin to grow and take hold, and not just grow, but eventually turn pink and take up all the space in your life and your relationship. So my thing was, I don't ever want him to have withholds from me, either in the form of his thoughts or his feelings, or in fact, even how he cares about me. So that sort of sets the tone for, and is what you need to do first to then be able to move into the, the four questions that are really the four questions of the work. And that you want to be able to, at the end, do a turnaround, which helps you completely redirect the energy and the emotion that might show up when you go through those first few steps. And so the first question that you always need to ask yourself is it true? And so if I were to summarize that first statement for me is that he doesn't love me enough to fight for us. So if I were going to answer that honestly, is it true? Is that I would say yes. For me, that feels true, because in my world, when you love somebody, you do whatever it takes. You fight. You fight for that relationship. You fight for what you need. You fight for what's important. So I would answer yes to that question. So if you answered no to that question, then you would, whatever your question is or your response is, then you would jump to question 3. But because I said yes, then the second question is, can you absolutely know that it's true? And so I couldn't honestly say yes to that one because I don't know what's going on inside him. I did have a chance to speak to him a little bit today and ask a couple of my questions, and he was sort of open. He was at work, and so he kind of came back to, I've got lots of other things. I don't really want to have this conversation right now. And I was doing my best to, be respectful of that. So I sort of got some answers to my questions, but so based on the current reality, I could say that it's a maybe, not a clear yes, that he doesn't care enough about me or doesn't love me enough to fight. But based on question number 2, which is, can I absolutely know that it's true? My response needs to be no. Then the third question that gets a little more juicy is, how do you react, or what happens when you believe that thought or when you believe it's true? And so one of the things that kind of showed up for me today is that if you understand mirroring, is that when we're upset with somebody else, it's an opportunity for us to be able to explore what it is about them or their behavior that's mirroring something that's going on inside of us. And what popped up for me based on our brief conversation today is that, and a conversation that Catherine and I had yesterday, is that I believe that part of why this is happening right now is that it's reminding me, I mentioned the not lovable piece the other day, that core negative belief. And so what I realized is that some of the ways that I respond to him, when in the past I felt like he wasn't present, or I felt like he wasn't fully participating, or I felt like he was retreating, or, whatever it was that I was experiencing, part of why I think I came at him so hard and with such determination and fierceness was because it was triggering for me that old wound of, if you're pulling back, you're rejecting me, and if you're rejecting me, it's because of this. And so I also believe that part of the ways that I poke him is that I believe he carries one of his core negative beliefs is that he's inadequate or not good enough, and that he'll always disappoint. And so when I'm disappointed, and I literally am disappointed, his core negative beliefs gets fully activated. And now we've got 2 people coming at a situation and coming at the relationship from core negative beliefs versus mindfulness, presence in the moment, and acting according to that. So the third question is, how do I react when that happens, or when I believe that thought? Is I become reactive, I become pushy, I become direct, I become righteous, I become miserable, I become unhappy. And so then the fourth question that you ask yourself is, who would I be without that thought? And so for me, it was, I would be grounded in love and self-love and self-respect. I would be resilient and strong and able to not personalize the certain things that happens in my life. And I would be free to learn how to let things go quicker and easier and perhaps faster. So then what you want to do is, when you get to that point, is you want to turn the thought around. And so you need to find 3 ways to do that. And the first thing is, you want to do a turnaround with yourself, and then a turnaround to the other person, and then look for what would the opposite of that be. So the in relationship to self, so if I turn that thought around, is that I would recognize that there are times in my life where I don't love me, and I don't show up for me, and I abandon me. When I look at that in relationship to Chris, is then the other thing with him, so as it relates to him, is that I sometimes don't show up for him. I sometimes abandon him, and I don't always love him enough to fight for him, for us, for the relationship. And so the opposite of that would be, and this one I have a little more struggle with, just based on results and based on where it feels like things are at. But the third turnaround thought would be that he does care enough about me. And I'm reluctant to add the to fight, only because it doesn't feel like that's how it's been. But I am open to the possibility that he does care enough about me, and that for whatever reason the other things might be interfering with his willingness, and that will be whatever it's going to be. So when you can get there, then you kind of end with, or replace with, I don't ever want to, that last question around what do I never want to experience again, with I look forward to. And so it ends for me with I look forward to having a relationship, period, whether that's with Chris or not with Chris. I look forward to having a relationship where there's enough love and enough care and enough safety to always speak your truth, to always ask for what you need, and to do that from the space of right now versus from the place of our core wounds or our core negative beliefs. So it's a powerful process. You can certainly look it up if you want more detail. Byron Katie's The Work. Karen McMullen, sexlovegenius.com. She'll probably be doing it again, where you can have it facilitated and someone support you in that. So I just want to say I hope that it helps. If you have something going on in your life, follow the steps and just notice what happens when you get to the turnaround, and when you reframe it into something very different. So it's felt helpful for me. I feel hopeful, and not hopeful from the perspective and point of view of it's going to change the reality of my situation right now, but hopeful that I am going to get to that place where I don't wake up like I woke up this morning once again with the fire in my belly, and that I had a couple conversations with other people today about other things, and started to kind of get excited about what the possibilities are coming up, and some of the things that I can put my focus and attention on. So that felt powerful as well. So hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing, I hope, many of you at the Tribe Picnic tomorrow. Looking forward to lots of hugs and lots of connection. So thank you.